Okay, I got the push rod straightened out. Straight enough, way straighter than it was. I got a new line for the passenger side front, and I also got the distribution block cleaned out. It wasn't even really clogged, but I got it off and checked it out, and it's unclogged. Today, fingers crossed, I'm going to put the distribution block back in, hook it back up, hook the new line in, which I think I'm gonna have to loosen the steering box to get it behind it. But that's the plan. But it's windy, cold, and probably about 2 hours from being dark. So I got a limited time. I'm gonna try and get this done. So far so good. The junction block went right back in like it should have. I'm gonna go ahead and loosen the steering box. See how that goes. There's 3 bolts to the steering box. 1, 2, 3. I guess I could show you the junction block. So there's a junction block, and I got everything in but that top one, and that's the one that goes to the front brake. 1 comes in, 2 come out. So we're gonna run that new line, and then I've got to go get brake fluid. I believe those steering box bolts are 5/8. I think so. Yep, 5/8. Okay. And I got my electric impact, which is overly long for what it is. Oops, didn't really want to take that all the way out. Ought to be fine. Well, so much for that. All right, they're all out. Oh yeah, like butter. Moved right out of the way. That'll work. So this one's one that goes into the junction block. You see how it's got a big, almost a 90, kind of swoops around. I'm gonna try and make one end look like that before I get started, because I don't want to try to do that while it's in there. I'm gonna try and replicate that part of it. It's not exactly right. I can't get a good picture of it, but it ought to do. It'll get up in there, and we can straighten it out after that. Okay, here's the score so far. The junction block is in, lines are tight, the steering box is tightened, line is ran, tightened. I'm gonna put in the push rod for the master cylinder for like the 3rd time. So I think you guys have seen that. I'm pretty sure you've got the hang of what that's all about. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, clean up as clean as I need to be to go into Dollar General, which is not at all. And then I'm going to get some brake fluid and come back and try it out. All right. One of my favorite things is Coke in a glass bottle. So American, yet made in Mexico. I love this stuff. I think it tastes better out of a glass bottle. Call me old-fashioned, but it just does. Only thing better is if they're out of a cooler, right off the ice. Actually, there's a small town about 10 minutes up, has a little convenience store that has these on ice. And that's the only reason to stop by that place. Back to what we're doing. I have to tighten up this line going to this hose. The other hose on the driver's side is broke and was pinched off with a vice grip. I'm going to open this one up on the bleeder. I'm going to open both the bleeders up on the back. I'm going to pour the brake fluid in. I'm just going to see what happens, see if we get fluid to all the bleeders. I have brake hoses and front wheel cylinders coming from Rock Auto. I didn't do rear wheel cylinders because that rear end's the wrong year, and I have no idea what year it is. And they changed them somewhere around 74. So I'll get this together, and then I'll worry about the rear brake wheel cylinders then. Anyways, here we go before it gets dark. I'm gonna guess I got at the max about another hour and a half, but knock on wood, it shouldn't take that long. I can hear fluid coming out of the driver's side front. All right, let's see what we're getting. We should have a bunch of fluid on this side. Well, yeah, I see a little bit coming out where I didn't tighten the fitting. I guess it's still pinched off up here. It's leaking there, but it's pretty much dry up here. I'm not seeing any fluid on the freaking passenger side. I guess the fluid will come out here, or will come out here. So I'm gonna tighten up that fitting over here. Long-winded. Okay, there we go. Tight. Let's see what we got now. Getting pressure, not hearing anything. I gotta fill up that front reservoir. Getting low though, they're both getting low. Means there's fluid going somewhere. I got a little bit of a pedal, very spongy. Not hearing the other side squirt anything. Well, I'm about ready to just cut that line and see if somehow or another this wheel cylinder is holding that up. Let's see if we get some fluid this way. I'm really crossing my fingers hoping so. I think we got a little bit of something. Maybe that's just wishful thinking. Looks a little wet in there. I don't think you can see it on the camera, but yeah, you can't. All right. Now there should be no restriction to fluid flowing that way. Something just popped loose. Sprayed fluid all over. But yeah, you can see liquid, and it sprayed all the way over onto this tire and probably past that. Probably hit, yeah, inner fender. So we've got fluid leakage. That's good. So we got the fronts getting fluid, both fronts. So let's check out the rears. Now the rears, I took the line off last time. So honestly, we should just be getting brake fluid, yeah, to maybe here, and definitely to here, which I can see it leaking because I took this other brake line off. I'm gonna reattach it, make sure it squirts out the other side, and then I'll probably reattach these and see if they squirt out the rear wheel cylinders. The rear line is tightened up. All the bleeders are out of the back. I think I hear stuff going on back there. I'll go ahead and pump plenty of it out of there so I can be for sure. No use in crawling under there 3 times. I can hear something for sure. Something definitely liquidy coming out of the back. Yeah, we're soaking that up real good. I'm gonna go ahead and clamp this puppy off. We'll see what happens with that. While we're at it, let's go ahead and go to the rear, see what we got leaking. That one's not, and neither is that one yet. I got fluid to the back before. It's not compressing. Let's see if we're getting anything. I'm getting a little give. Not a whole lot. I'm gonna loosen those rear lines. It might even be in that hose. I got a new hose for that too. Okay, both lines are disconnected. It's getting dark. Let's give this one more shot. It's going down. It ain't going down easy. Look at that, 2-footing it again. It wouldn't hurt if I had a little bit thicker soled shoes too. I'm gonna cut that rear brake line, rear brake hose. I cut the rear brake hose and it was wet, so we'll see what that did. I'm kind of grasping at straws right now, really hoping that that hard line isn't caked full of stuff, because that's a long line to run, and usually you're gonna have to run a junction, which isn't the end of the world, but one more place for it to fail. But the only thing I changed is I cut that rear hose. Okay, it just broke loose big time. Now it's pumping with a little bit of, I can hear it. It threw some junk out of there. Thank God. I'm gonna check the reservoir. Yeah, I pumped it dry, or practically dry. All right, back on the F-100 again. I'm gonna put in front brake hoses, rear brake hoses, and front wheel cylinders. Already got the wheels off, got the old hoses that were broke off. Got the line sitting there. I've got the back line off. It's sitting kind of low in the back. Hard to crawl under there and show you, but all the lines are broke loose. I filled up the reservoir, kind of let them just gravity bleed a little bit while I go through all this stuff. I don't believe that these drums slide off of the hub, so I'm pretty sure I just got to take this out, take it off. Hopefully there's not a huge mess in there and the brakes are somewhat serviceable, that way that I can actually put them in. And I didn't bring my brake tools, but I'll make do. So hopefully I can just put the wheel cylinders in, put everything back on, test them, see if it works. I will be hooking up the rear brake line hose, and I'll be hooking it up to the old wheel cylinders to see if they have any life left in them, because I don't have any right now anyways. So, and they were running without a cap for a while. They're all crusty. And these were really loose, so I don't know if they were just put on half butted by somebody, or if the grease disappeared making that space or what, but they were wobbly. Well, that was easy. Came right off and actually looks pretty good. I mean, looks serviceable. Yeah, grease is packed on there. I mean, it looks like it's been rolling with the wheel for a while, and the back bearing is, it's not stuck, but I mean, it's dry, so there won't be a whole lot of fast driving on this. But yeah, and so does the front bearing. Well, the front bearing, you know, still pretty dry. It doesn't look like it's damaged. Neither one looks like they're damaged, I don't think. Not any worse than anything else I've ever worked on. The brake shoes are decent. Again, not falling off. I've had them delaminated. These are actually riveted. I've had laminated ones delaminate on me, on my Mustang, on the rear end, and I tried to just ignore it until finally I tried to push the drum on it and they just fell off in my hand, so I had to get new ones. But so how long before you think this thing would have started leaking? It's time to compare these to the new ones, but yeah, they've got stuff in them. I wouldn't trust them. The line coming in the same direction and the bleeder at the top. It's the difference between left and rights. Bleeders here and bleeders there. And this thing's shooting off to the right. And this one's shooting off to the right. So I think we got the right one. This is going too smooth. Something bad's gonna happen. I just know it. Now, these things are a little bent. And I didn't do anything to make them bend like that. I didn't do any prying. It fell right out. This one's good. This one's a little bent. I'm gonna beat it back into submission, or maybe just bend it back into submission. Yeah, usually if I take pliers and pinch them like that, I'm gonna bend this one, the straight one, in too, but let's see. That's better. Good enough for me. It looks a little bit, the whole thing looks a little bent, but I'm not gonna complain. I think it'll be fine. It's been about 10 minutes and it's in, bolted down. Springs went on good. I got a little dust on the grease that wasn't doing anything anyways, but I'll wipe that off, throw this back on, tighten it down, and get to work on the brake lines. Since this is not supposed to be about wheel bearings and it's supposed to be about brakes, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time or do this correctly, but the grease that was inside of here was decent, and so I did grease up all the dry bearings. So I'll put them back on there, we'll tighten them up. Like I said, there'll be a episode with the proper way to pack a bearing. But as of right now, you know, it's greased. I'm sure we could roll around at 30 miles an hour and not have any problem, but yeah, it will be addressed later on. I don't believe there's a left and right on the fronts. You know what? This ain't even gonna work. Shit. These do not look like these. Damn it. Well, I ran into a problem, but thank God I've got parts. Had a parts frame. So this whole thing here isn't on mine. This was just the hose just screwed right into the wheel cylinder on the truck, but the new hoses that came are this setup with this little hard line and this bracket that I don't have. So I'm swiping the stuff off this in hopes that it works on that and I can use my new hoses I have. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to research what the heck kind of hose this is, that the other one is, and then pray that it actually worked with the new wheel cylinders. So I'm gonna check the wheel cylinders real quick, make sure they do have a flare fitting that goes into them. And if they are, then I'll be taking these brackets off and swapping them onto the truck. I don't know, I wish I had the money to just do a disc brake swap, but it's not in the cards right now, so gotta make do. All right, back again. Yesterday was a mess. I was in a hurry and it was raining, so I didn't really film anything, but I did get a lot done. I've got the hoses on, I've got the brake line ran, I've got it adapted to this because it's a long story and it's convoluted, but easiest thing to say about it is Ford likes to change things. And apparently this is a 71, not a 72. And in 71, from what I can gather, they changed the way that the brake hoses hook into the wheel cylinders. And somehow they changed the wheel cylinders too. So I got 72s, my truck's a 71, and they're completely different. I have 67 parts in the bed of this truck, and they apparently are pretty close to what a 72 is. So 67 till whenever, same. 71 different. 72 back to 67 to whatever style, as far as I can tell. I didn't need to look, I didn't want to check it out too much. I just wanted to get something that worked. So mix match of parts, try to take all the parts off and make them work on this, and they were in the bed. Broke a line, had to buy a new line. Was thinking about going back and getting all 71 stuff after I'd already bought everything from Rock Auto, which means sending it back, packing it up, sending it back. Not really worth it to me. I'm sure their return policy's good and easy and cheap, if not free. Just didn't want to have to hassle with that if I could make these work. So the end result was buy two lines from two pre-flared lines from O'Reilly's and bend them to the right thing, those little short lines. It ended up being an 8-inch line, which is longer than what the original one was, but there's nothing, it's not going to hurt anything. It's out of the way. It's not going to get hung up on anything. So this should work. But that's what I fought with yesterday in the rain, and I was on a very tight schedule. But I got them on, and I got the brakes pumped up. Today I'm going to put the rear hose on, hook up the rear lines to the old wheel cylinders, just to see if I can get pressure and see if the rear wheel cylinders will do anything. Also, crawled underneath the truck, looked at the tag on the rear end, found out that the rear end is a 1976, which helps me find out which rear wheel cylinders I need to buy. One thing at a time, get this done, then I'll put those rear wheel cylinders on. But both brakes on the front looked pretty good. I mean, they are old, they haven't been used in a long time. The wheel bearings are going to need to be repacked at the very least. But everything looked good. They did have grease. There was some extra grease inside. Somebody had done it the way I would do it and packed the empty space in the wheel hub with extra grease. So I used that to grease the wheel bearings. And anyways, it's about ready to go. I'm gonna take about hopefully half an hour, get this line hooked up, and see if we actually have brakes that function. If we do, I will be happy, because this has taken a lot more time and a lot of restless nights trying to think about how the heck I'm gonna get this thing to actually work. Well, she runs, she drives, she kind of stops. Got to pump them up. They hold as long as your foot's on it. As soon as you take your foot off, they're back to nearly nothing. I think it's probably the brake shoes need to be adjusted out, because you're springing them out, hold them out, and as soon as you let off, they just come right back in. It takes that much pressure to get them flung back out. I haven't tested the rear brakes to see if they even work. They're holding pressure and they're holding fluid. Both the front and rear's holding fluid. Yeah, it's still not right. It's not able to go on the road, which even if it was, it wouldn't. I don't think I'd trust it over 30 mile an hour. I got a real bad tie rod on the driver's side. I know that the carburetor is going to need a lot of adjusting. It stumbles right off of idle. It's still sticky, still kind of sticks at a higher RPM than I'd like to see it idle. I just think that the carburetor's probably wore out. See if I can't eventually get a better one whenever it all comes down to it. Any more working would probably take, a few more hours to get lined out. I'm sure I didn't mess with the adjusters, so I'm guessing take the brakes all the way back apart, clean the adjusters, get them freed up, and then adjust them out. And I mean, that sounds simple enough, but it's got to take a little bit of time. So I think I'm done for today, but it drove around. I mean, I could take you for a drive, but it ain't gonna be any more exciting than the first one. Just a nice slow crawl around the yard, because the brakes still aren't, and this thing's not legal either, not even close to being legal. So I don't really need any more. I don't have any trouble with them, but I don't need any trouble with the local cops. Once you get on the radar, you're lucky to ever get it back off. So, but see, pump. And that's got a little bit. Keep pumping. That's got good pressure. And it stays as long as you're pushing on it. But let off of it for about 2 seconds. Right back down the bottom. Right back down the bottom. Pump it up. Good pressure. Real good pressure. It holds. Get off at 1, 2, all the way back down to the bottom. Like I said, it's not leaking fluid. I've checked it, it's not leaking a bit of fluid, so it's, you know, the system's closed. Probably just gonna save that for another day. I might kick myself later, but it's the weekend and I want to do some other stuff, so ain't exactly idling the greatest either. You see that? You know, I still got a lot to go on this, but sometimes you got to have brakes to get any further along on their testing. I would say the rear brakes aren't working the greatest. Here's what we got. They are working, but they won't even hold. Doesn't sound very good back there. It's taking quite a bit of pedal pressure to get it to stop. Forward's a little bit better. Of course, it don't seem to be spinning as fast either. It has required a ton of freaking babying. Just ridiculous. I think next time is going to be wheel cylinders, brake shoe adjustment. I think that's what we're going to do. See if we can't dial this thing in.